Recording. Okay, so today's opener, it's using the MA method to fill out the area model, or basically you're using the MA method to factor. So when you're using the MA method to factor, if you're looking at your notes, you have 5 steps that you need to follow. The first step is determine the M and determine the A. Mackenzie, how do I determine my M? You're going to do something with this number and this number. What are you going to do with those two numbers? What's M mean? M means to multiply. So you're going to take your first coefficient, which basically just means your first number, times your third coefficient. So 6 times 6 is 36.
So you put that 37, what do you do? Do you put it to the A?
We'll get there in just a second. So then your A, you look at your second coefficient, which is 37.
So what's the A? What A mean?
Add. So what you think with that then, if you have your blue factor sheet out, because I gave you guys that little cheat sheet, what you're going to do for your factor sheet, since M means to multiply, you're going to look at your 36, and you're going to find your 36 on your factor sheet, and you're going to see which of those numbers you can add together to get 37. So which of those numbers can you add together to get 37? 1 and 36, right. So there you just completed step 2. You're welcome. So we have 1 and 36. Now step 3 says to take my MA and put it into my area model into the top right and bottom left rectangle. So I always put my smaller number in my top right and my bigger number in my bottom left, just because it makes step 4 easier. Now, because this 1 and 36, when you add them together, that's going to equal my second term, which is 37. So what variable needs to go with this 1 and 36? D, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and put a D with each of those. What's the area of my first rectangle then? What's the area of this first rectangle now? If this 37 makes up this, so that 37 makes up the area of those two rectangles, what's going to be the area of my first rectangle? What's the area of my first rectangle, guys? Remember, this is going to represent my area because there's no parentheses. So what's going to be my first area that I plug in here? Yeah, 6D squared. And then I already have the area for my second and my third. What's the area for my final rectangle? 6. Okay. Now you're down to step 4. If you're looking at your notes, which only one person has their note sheet out, step 4 says using the greatest common factor, or using the top row, find the greatest common factor of your numbers.
So it's going to be 6.
Well, this one's going to be easy, not 6, because 1 and 6 don't share the number 6. What number does 1 and 6 share? Yeah, just 1. So anytime you have a 1 here, it's automatically that 1. What variable do they share? D. So the greatest common factor represents what on my area model now? Where do I place it on my area model? As my width or my height? Greatest common factor represents my, think about height. Did you guys do this yesterday?
We did different.
All right. So now I'm trying to find the width. So I think 1D times what gets me to 6D squared? 6D. So that becomes my width. If my width is 6D up here, it's also going to be my width down below. So am I going to write it here or here? First or second? Second. Good. So now I come and I look for my width in my top right. 1D times what gets me to 1D? 1. So I'm going to bring the width straight down. So I have my top row filled out. So now I come to my bottom row here, my bottom rectangles. I have my area and I have my width, but I'm missing my what? My height. So all I have to do is simply think, what times 6D gets me to 36D? 6. If I plug in 6 for my second rectangle and take 6 times 1, does that equal 6? Yeah, so we know it works. So my height is going to be 6. And then my last step is just writing my final answer. So I have, right here is my area. So I have my area equals height. So what's the height of this area model?
6.
Height. 1D, because you always go.
Oh yeah, no, I was doing that. Yeah.
So 1D plus 6. So my height times what? Width, which is 60 plus 1. And there's your final answer for the front side. Do you have, it should be under your folder. Do you have a pass?
Yeah, it was on my shoes.
Huh?
It was on my shoes.
Okay, thank you for being honest. Okay, so make sure you get that down. Is it not on your desk or under your binder?
No,
Danielle, is there open under your binder?
yeah.
She wanted to complete sheet today. She's going to be helpful. She's keeping it safe for you. All right. Backside. All right. Backside. It's the exact same thing as what we did on the front side. So, AJ, how do I find my M? Say what? My M? Well, I'm going to take my first coefficient times my third coefficient. Okay, so my first coefficient would be 1 because there's nothing with the variable. But what's my third coefficient? So I'm going to take 1 times 15 and get what? Good. Okay. Mackenzie, what's my A? What's my A? Just the 8. Okay. So now you're going to look at your factor sheet. The N is 15, so you're going to find the 15 on your blue factor sheet, and you're going to determine which of these numbers can you add together to get 8. Huh? 3 and 5. Okay? This 3 and 5 then goes where on my area model? Top right and bottom left. Good, AJ. Thank you. Okay, what variable goes with the 3 and 5? C. Okay. Which area goes here? Bottom right. What area goes in this bottom right now?
The 30. No, 80.
That 8 is made up of the middle here. 15. Okay, so then what's going to be my first area? 1 what? You guys are painful today. All right. So now I have my area of each rectangle. So now we're getting ready to start step 4. Step 4 says, find the greatest common factor of your top row. What's the greatest common factor of 1c squared and 3c? So what numbers does 1 and 3 share? 1. What variable do they share? So that becomes the height. Good, that's the height of my top row. So I know my height. I know my total area. So now I need to find my width. Okay? Well, let's think. 1c times what gets me to 1c squared? 1 what? 1c. So that's the width for the top, which also means it's going to be the width for the bottom. And we put our width second. So then I come to my second rectangle. 1c times what gets me to 3c? 3. So that's my width at the top and my width on the bottom. So my top row is filled out. Now I come down. What am I finding for my bottom row? The height. So what times 1c will get me to 5c? If I plug in 5 for my other height, 5 times 3, does that equal 15? Yeah. So my height for my bottom row is 5. Come up. My final answer, area equals what? So height, what's my height? Plus 5. Then what's my width? What am I missing on this?
The parentheses.
Parentheses to show height times width and my box.